Prime Minister Abiy expresses condolence over the assassination of Girma Yeshitela. And regional states donate assistance worth over 6 billion birr to rehabilitation efforts in Tigray. Hello there and welcome to Addis News Hour. With the news, I'm Kinana Baina. Thank you for joining us. Our first story. President Sahlawork Zewde received credentials of ambassadors of 8 countries. New ambassadors of Turkey, Sri Lanka, Eswatini, Chile, Angola, El Salvador and Guatemala presented their letter of credential to the president at a welcoming event held at the National Palace. The ambassadors vowed to contribute their part in strengthening the bilateral relationship between Ethiopia and their respective countries. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed expressed deepest condolences over the assassination of Girma Yeshitela, head of the Amhara branch of the ruling Prosperity Party. In his message of condolence, Prime Minister Ahmed, who also chairs Prosperity Party, pointed out that some fanatics in Girma's hometown in North Shawa zone of Amhara assassinated him when they failed to manipulate him with their politics. Girma was shot at close range and severely wounded at a place called Mahal Meda in Menzgera district of North Shawa zone. Although rushed to the hospital, Girma could not make it, saying that fanaticism within the ruling party and across the nation by some politicians should be nipped in the bud. Prime Minister threw words of admiration for Girma's steadfastness through the Prosperity's arduous path. Regional state presidents who headed to Mekelle for a visit yesterday donated 6 billion birr worth of assistance. Presidents of Amhara and Afar have vowed to stand by the people and transitional administration of Tigray to rehabilitate the war-torn region. Mayor of Addis Ababa and President of Oromia, Somali, Southwest Ethiopia, Sidama, and Southern Nations nationalities and people likewise expressed commitment to pitch in for the rehabilitation badly needed in Tigray. Meanwhile, the ruling Prosperity Party donated 20 million birr to rehabilitation efforts in Tigray. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced that the necessary support is being provided to Ethiopian citizens in Sudan. The ministry stated that the area where the Ethiopian embassy is located is a war zone. Therefore, electricity service is cut off and it is difficult to get food and related supplies in the area. The ministry indicated that the embassy is supplying citizens with essential services consequent of the situation. Since it is difficult for diplomats to stay in the area and support citizens, only some staff of the embassy are currently in the compound, while others, including the ambassador, are working from Gerdaif area. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs underscored that the support being provided to the citizens have been given due attention. Ongoing evacuation mobilizations being carried out in Sudan are causing huge burden on Ethiopia, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said yesterday. State Minister for Foreign Affairs, Misganu Aragga, has briefed the diplomatic community that the existing situation in Sudan has not been showing improvement. Briefing diplomatic community and representatives of international organizations based in Addis Ababa about the impacts of Sudan's situation and evacuation on Ethiopia, State Minister Aragga noted that huge mobilization of evacuations over the week has brought massive burden on Ethiopia. As a result of evacuation burden, Misganu called on the international community to support Ethiopia. He said the ongoing conflict in Sudan has negative impact on Ethiopia, the East African region, and other sub-regions. As an immediate neighboring country, we have so many challenges which require attention and support from the international community, the state minister underscored. He also urged the forces in Sudan to reach immediate ceasefire and start political dialogue. Ethiopia condemns any interference or meddling in the internal affairs of Sudan that could worsen the situation, the state minister added. The 58-year-old broadcaster ETV is leveling up the ground and is in the last 10-day-long countdown to inaugurate a state-of-the-art building up in Shagole area of Gulale sub-city. As part of his tumultuous welcome to distinguished guests and bigwigs of the central and regional governments at a grand event scheduled 10 days later, ETV. During the 90-minute match, Sisai Tarrafa netted the first goal, giving the AMN the lead, while Haptamo Shagre scored the equalizer for ETV. A penalty shot gave the host ETV a victory in the warm ceremony, which also included a visit to the broadcaster's headquarters. Welcome back. Ethiopian Institution of the Ombudsman unveiled investigations and recommendations on the support and service provisions to people displaced due to drought and flooding in Oromia, South and Somalia states. Briefing the media, Adana Belai, Maladministration Protection Director with the Ethiopian Institution of the Ombudsman, indicated that drought and flooding displaced thousands, killed animals and damaged infrastructures in the zones of Borana, South Omo and Dawa of the three states. The study spans between March 20 to April 3, 2023 and focuses on 10 districts in Oromia, South and Somali. The director indicated that over 235,900 people have been displaced and 1.3 million animals were killed due to the drought and flooding in the three regions. Balai pointed out that there were no administrative mechanisms to support women, children, the elderly and the disabled.
One of
the gaps identified in the provision of support to the people is that there are no administrative mechanisms to help children, women, the elderly and the disabled. Also, balanced diet and nutritious food could not be doled out in plenty. Thus, people like pregnant women and lactating mothers in particular suffer the most.
The director put forward recommendation on the ways to temporarily and sustainably rehabilitate and rebuild the damaged infrastructures.
Concerned bodies should exert efforts to rebuild schools, health institutions for the disabled ones, so that they could get social services sustainably. I also call on stakeholders to begin to provide medicines, medical equipment and necessary educational material to the people affected by the disaster.
In business, the Ethiopian Embassy in Pakistan and Trade Development Authority of Pakistan on Thursday agreed to hold an Ethio-Pakistan Business Forum in Karachi during the second week of May. According to the Ethiopian Embassy in Islamabad, the forum aims to boost bilateral trade by connecting business community of the two countries. The decision to this effect was taken during a meeting between the Ethiopian ambassador to the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Jamal Bakr Abdullah, and TDAP chairperson Zubair Motwala.
Cairo, the capital of Egypt, is located on the land connecting Africa and Asia and is the 7th most populous city in the world. Cairo is the country's center of commerce, economy, education, and tourism. The name of Cairo means victorious in Arabic.
And this is your shop, yeah? And
yeah.
Which kind of things do you have for sale?
I sell perfume and papyrus. It's a gift shop, souvenir shop.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
All right.
Right on. Nice to meet you. I'm going walking, so.
All right.
Okay. All right. All right. So this is the Nile River, and so the Mediterranean Sea, right there, or a little ways, a couple hours drive up there. Alexandria is on the Mediterranean up there.
The current ceasefire in Sudan might be extended according to reports. The Sudanese military chief says he'll send an envoy for talks aimed at possibly extending the truce beyond the Friday morning deadline. No word yet on whether the paramilitary group, the Rapid Support Forces, will send an envoy as well. But the ceasefire has done little to ease the suffering after fighting broke out nearly 2 weeks ago. Binyam Alamayo tells us more.
Despite the ceasefire, Sudan's capital, Khartoum, is still rocked by occasional explosions and gunfire. But for the most part, the current truce is holding. And while the world waits to see if the ceasefire will be extended, people are venturing out to try to stock up on all the necessities they can get their hands on, like bread, water, and gas, but supplies are low and prices high. Some are drinking water straight from a Nile River, a dangerous prospect.
We hope the solution will be a peaceful and a political one. People can't find water, and they drink from the river. We need to reduce the struggle of the people.
With the death toll now passing 500, the World Health Organization says the biggest risks are coming from lack of services, not the gunfire. Only 16% of health facilities in the capital are operating at normal.
But paramedics, nurses, and doctors are unable to access injured civilians, and civilians are unable to access services.
The current ceasefire, which started on Tuesday morning, is providing an opportunity for foreign nationals to escape. After the first flight of Turkish citizens from Sudan arrived in Istanbul on Tuesday, Turkey's foreign minister said the evacuation continues by land, air, and sea.
We are evacuating our citizens. We are also helping citizens of different countries. We have received requests from almost 40 countries.
Arriving evacuees around the world describe hellish conditions they left behind.
Gunshots still ring in our ears from the first day of the clashes. We heard all kinds of weapons and explosions. Our whole building was shaking.
In the meantime, another humanitarian crisis is growing at Sudan's western border with Chad and northern border with Egypt, which is as far as these families were able to get, now living in makeshift camps with little food or water. And this is as the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is getting involved, now discussing with the African Union Commission chairperson a way to create a sustainable end to the fighting in Sudan.
In our final news, according to the World Health Organization, about 200,000 people die of malaria every year in Nigeria. That's about 31% of global malaria deaths. As the world marks World Malaria Day 2023, health experts urge the Nigerian government to do more to prevent malaria's spread. Kassan Jani has more.
Enoch Godfrey is giving treatment for malaria. Here's the second time in the last 5 months.
I'm very weak and I'm lost of appetite. This year, actually, this is the first time malaria attacked me, but normally malaria do attack me twice a year. So I've been finding a way to keep myself from malaria. And especially this period we are, this is when mosquitoes are everywhere, the rainy season period.
Malaria is a disease caused by a parasite and spreads to humans through the bite of the infected mosquitoes. According to the Malaria Journal, Nigeria had the world's biggest malaria burden, with approximately 51 million cases and 207,000 deaths annually.
When you look at our environment, it's one that favors the growth of the vector that causes malaria, which is the Anopheles mosquito. You look at the regions, we have a lot of areas that are waterlogged. We have a lot of vegetations that trap water, and you know that the egg of the vector, survive. And then Nigeria has a huge population. So when a disease occurs in this area, of course, it's going to affect a large number of people. So we have that number again. And then also the level of education concerning the prevention is not, we need to do more.
Nigeria and 3 other African countries accounted for over half of all global malaria deaths. Last year, 31% of the deaths amounted to 191,890 occurred in Nigeria, 13 in the Democratic Republic of Congo, while Niger, Republic and Tanzania trailed behind with 4% each. Medical experts in Nigeria are calling on citizens to ensure clean surroundings and are also asking for improved government funding to address the situation.
We need to make policies that will ensure that people don't come down with malaria. We need to make policies that will make the environment unfavorable for this vector. We need to make policies that will say, okay, vaccine, where we insecticide a whole large area and make sure that this vector is not there. Our education, health education concerning malaria and its preventive methods should really go down to the grassroots and then everywhere, and then ensure that the treatment of malaria is made readily available and also, if possible, free.
Government sources taking steps to fight malaria that should protect more Nigerians like Enoch Godfrey against malaria and also reduce the number of deaths associated with the disease in the country.
Now a recap of the top stories once again before we go. Prime Minister Abiy expresses condolence over the assassination of Girma Yeshitela. And regional states donate assistance worth over 6 billion birr to rehabilitation efforts in Tigray. Well, that brings this news hour to the end. Thank you once again for having joined us. It's goodbye from my end.